Hello, Church Communications Group. My name is Zach Bernauer. We're with Church Communications Group. And today I am here with Carl. He is the founder of Church Visuals. Carl, how are you doing today? Talk to us even about Church Visuals.
Zach, I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, true. Church Visuals is a media company that I started in 2015. I worked on staff at two large churches before that, and then started in 2015 as a way. I was the only content guy
Mhm.
for a large churches, and my thought was, if I'm here and they're not hiring more staff members, there's no way a smaller church is going to hire a guy like me. So
Mhm.
that's what kind of started the company, and it was 1230 Media when we started, and last year we rebranded to Church Visuals. So man, it'll be 10 years next year, so it's been a quite a fun ride.
Wow. Yeah, so you've like basically been there for the whole duration of like churches moving into that digital realm. So you're an OG in the game. You know what you're doing. Um,
Yeah, way back. So I'll tell you one quick story. So I was at one church in Mississippi that before we had the ability to do digital like live streaming to campuses, this was a really large church, multiple campuses. We would record a center screen and side screens at the main campus onto physical hard drives. Then, when the message was over, we would unplug them, put them in a suitcase, lock them up like the nuclear football, right? Drive them across town, sync them up live during worship at another campus, all
oh my
live within
God.
like 30 minutes, and it would play the message that just happened. This is that that that's how OG I
Ye-
am. Uh, yeah. So
it's
yeah, these young whippersnappers don't know
I know.
anything. I'm
I
just
know.
kidding.
And I always say this is like us as, church leaders, we are really the most innovative people because like we have to make something literally out of nothing a lot of the times. And our like resumes like never reflect that. Like,
Yeah.
our resumes will never be able to reflect how vast our skill set is.
Yeah.
And that's evident in all of our jobs. We are definitely doers and thinkers and figure outers. So today,
Yeah.
what we're going to be talking about is the power of church visuals. A lot of us, specifically like when we're going digital, the visual component and the visual story that we push out to not just our congregants, but to those that are in our community also tells the story of who we are, and it's engaging and it
Yeah.
pulls people in. So Carl, can you talk to us about the power of church visuals?
Yeah, man, let's dive in. I'm going to kind of share my screen with you. We'll make sure that you guys can see this. I'm just going to pull from a Dropbox kind of folder here. Can you see that okay, Zach?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, so let's kind of spend the next 20-30 minutes talking about the power of visual media in churches. So this is, what do we mean by visuals, right? This is your graphics and video. This is the content that you put on screen on a big screen in your sanctuary, auditorium, or a small screen when it comes to social media.
Yeah.
And so
Carl,
if you,
what we're
yeah, go
seeing
ahead.
right now is just your files, so you might have to share one of your other screens.
Let's see. Let's see. Can you see the when I make it big? Can you see
No,
that?
we're only seeing the file
How
screen.
about that? Let's see here.
Um,
Thank you for stopping me. I appreciate
of
that.
course.
Let's make sure we're good here. How about that?
There
Did
we
that
go.
work?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know if that's going to get what we need here. Maybe I can pull these up individually and you can kind of see. I'll kind of move my browser window. And we'll kind of go from there. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll kind of jump in here. Forgive the technology, and we'll just make it work as we go. So if you're jumping into this webinar, you can only be here for a few minutes. I want to give you a URL to go to, and that is churchvisuals.com/power of breakout. What I'm going to share for the next few minutes is part of a workshop that I do at conferences and stuff like that. And so if you are kind of in and out, feel free to jump in and get all of my slides. It's a kind of an hour, 45-minute hour presentation. We'll do about 20 minutes of it here. But that's at churchvisuals.com/power of breakout. Okay, so let's see if this comes up here. I might have to share each one individually. We'll see. We'll kind of go from there. Okay, so a little bit of my background here. As I was mentioning, I've served two churches before, New Spring Church and Precept Ministries International. Precept was an international ministry led by a lady named Kay Arthur. So I worked on a television show there. And so here's what we do. We help churches and ministries visually communicate the gospel. So let me bring this in here. I'll have to kind of jump around here. So we help churches with their visuals and ministries and organizations. So we work with folks like Awana or Answers in Genesis or Outreach or large organizations like that. We help them build out their curriculum, so all the graphics and video content for their curriculum. We also help churches. We do sermon series graphics and any type of graphic need that you have, both for your sermon series or for your promotional things, anything like that. We can do, as well as sermon bumpers, promo videos, that sort of thing. So we have a ready-made library on our site that you can kind of pull off ready-made stuff, or what I just mentioned was a lot of custom work. So we do a lot of custom builds for churches and ministry. So all in all, we serve about our impact is about 60,000 churches or so worldwide. Through those organizations and kind of direct is who we serve. So let's kind of dive in here and talk about why your visuals matter. Your visuals matter because the gospel matters, right? It's not just to save time. It's not just to look incredible, not for entertainment value, although those things are wonderful, right? And those are byproducts of your visuals looking good. Your visuals really do matter because the gospel matters. We have the best message on the planet, the greatest story to ever be told, right? So in telling that story, your visual media, your visual content needs to really make a difference. Why? Because the message of the gospel really does matter when it comes to communicating that message, the greatest message that we have to tell. All right, so let's kind of dive into some science here. All right, so let's talk about visual processing, and in a few minutes, I'm going to give you some practical steps on how you can improve your visual media at your church. But let's first dive into this. So when it comes to processing visuals, the human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than a text or even spoken word. But if you are looking at text, if you're reading something, as opposed to looking at a picture or watching a video, your brain processes those visuals 60,000 times faster with an image. So is a picture worth 1,000 words? Yes. In fact, I can make an argument that a picture is actually worth 60,000 words, right? So I'll just share this stat. How long do you think it takes for humans to process an image? Zach, you want to jump in here? How long do you think it takes the human brain when we see an image? How long do you think it takes the brain to process that image? What do you think?
I would say like less than a second. I mean, even if you think about us on social media, like it's almost like milliseconds that we figure out if we're going to engage with something or not.
You absolutely got it right. So 13 milliseconds is how fast the brain processes a visual. 13 milliseconds. Let me kind of give a visual to this. So when we blink, we process a visual 13 it's 13 milliseconds. That is 8 to 30 times faster than the single blink of an eye. So when you blink, we process visuals faster than that, 8 to 30 times faster than that. We are processing visuals like crazy. Okay. When people speak, so when there is a message from a pastor, let's say, or a communicator, people remember 10% of what they hear. So if you have a sermon on Sunday and people walk away, let's say 3 days later, People are going to remember 10% of what they hear. If they read it, they're going to remember 20% of it. If they see something, if they see a visual, they're going to remember 80% of what they see and do. So if they're just hearing it, it's 10%. If they are reading it, it's 20%. If they're seeing it, it's 80%. So my argument is this. My argument is, how much do you speak versus show? So when you're on a Sunday, or when you're on, maybe you're a church communicator and you are working on your social media content, how much do you show versus speak? So your audience is going to absorb your message much faster. Remember, the human brain is processing that visual much faster than text or spoken word. Your audience will absorb your message faster and retain more of the gospel if you show them more. Okay. So now let's kind of dive in to a little bit of the impact of visuals. So I want to kind of start with that of what is the science behind it? What is your brain doing when we process images? And how does that affect your audience? Your audience is being affected because your audience is processing those visuals. They'll absorb it faster. They'll get more of the message the more you show them. All right. Now, am I saying that visuals are the Holy Spirit? Absolutely not. No. The visual is not the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's the Holy Spirit. It's only the Holy Spirit that's going to change their hearts. But visuals are a tool to help you engage people with the gospel and grow in their faith. That's what it should be used for. It should not be to save time and look awesome. It should be for salvation and discipleship. You need to use visual media as a means to impact, as a means to salvation and discipleship in your people. If you are not seeing salvation and discipleship, people coming to know Jesus and people growing in their faith, we should pack it up. I don't care how good your visuals look. We are not making an impact if that's not the case. So your visuals need to move people to salvation and spiritual growth, not just save you time, not just to look great, although those are byproducts of that. They are meant for impact. They are meant for you to see salvation and you to see spiritual growth. All right. So are bad visuals better than no visuals? Yes. Bad visuals can unintentionally convey a message that you don't care about your audience. So would I rather you use bad visuals than no visuals at all? Yes. But if you use bad visuals, it could communicate to your audience that you don't care about them, that you're not trying to reach them. That is especially true when it comes to millennials, Gen Z, younger generations. You want to provide visual media that will say, hey, we're after you. We believe in you. We want to use the methods that we can to reach you for salvation and spiritual growth, right? Okay, so let's look into some ways. Let's talk about some ways that you can improve your visual media content at your church. Okay, some practical steps. All right, so let's look at what you can't do. Okay, first, what you can't do is download images from Google. I know it's tempting to do that, but you cannot do that. Okay, you also can't use images with watermarks on them. So if you download from Google and you're using, I don't care if you have a nice, cute puppy picture, if it's got watermarks all over it, you can't use it. Okay, it doesn't belong to you. What's something else that you can't do? You can't show or download clips from YouTube. I usually, this is the point in my talk when I share this at a conference. This is the point where I either get tomatoes thrown at me or I know, Zach, you've never experienced that. That's okay, though. Um, I get the boos, I get the get off the stage. I'm not trying to be the YouTube police, but I do want us to operate with creative integrity. Zach, you've never done this, right? You've never downloaded a YouTube video at all, have you?
N- Not on recorded camera. No, I have not.
I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just kidding, man. All right, so let's kind of walk through that for a second. So YouTube is meant for personal use. So the terms of service when it comes to YouTube is that you cannot show YouTube in a group setting at all. So if you any small group, large group, or auditorium, you cannot show a YouTube clip. So it's against their terms of service. Also, it's stealing from the artist, and you're also kind of robbing the vendor, the resource provider, of a blessing. Here's what I mean by that. If your church is struggling with budget, and you come to a resource provider and you say, "Hey, I can't afford it. Is there anything that we can work out?" Most of the time, the resource providers in the ministry space are going to say, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's work something out." So if you go to YouTube and just rip off, let's say, a mini movie or a lyric video or a clip or something, you're robbing the resource provider of that blessing. So let me give you a good rule of thumb when it comes to YouTube. As a rule of thumb, it is recommended that you either get written permission from the copyright holder. So I'm not saying that it's never possible. I'm saying you need to get permission before you download that YouTube video. Um, uh, so either get permission, or if you are signing up for something where you're giving them their your email or information and signing up for an account, those two things, you're probably in a good legal shape. Here, let me give you an example of that. I used to work for New Spring Church. We would give our kids content away to other churches, all the kids curriculum and all the graphics and video content. We still put it was free, but we still put it behind a wall of, hey, we want your email and we want your information so that we know and can report on how many downloads we're getting, or whatever. And so if even if you're getting stuff free from an account like a New Spring or somewhere like that, it's a good rule of thumb for us to know that you've done that. So either get permission from the artist, or create an account somewhere. Okay, so let me kind of bounce around here and give you some practical tips. Let me jump real quick to kind of a path that I want you to take when it comes to your visual media. I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, Zach, and we'll talk about these. Okay, so let me give you a clear path when it comes to improving the visual media at your church. Okay, your step one, which I get often at a conference, I thought that we could kind of start later in the process. But what I find is a lot of churches, especially really small churches, either don't have screens in their auditorium or don't have the capability to have screens in their small group spaces. So we have to start there, right? I would roll in a TV. I would buy a $200 TV from Walmart. Like you have to have screens in your spaces. So I would start there. So let's call that number one, install screens. Number two is purchase presentation software. Now, there are 3 or 4 on the market that I recommend. The top kind of standard is ProPresenter, and that's really where you need to get to. You need to get to ProPresenter on a Mac computer as soon as you can. But if you're not there yet, if you want to use like an Easy Worship or a Media Shout or Proclaim, any 4 of those pieces of software are just fine to use. So one of those 4 would be good. Again, ProPresenter, Easy Worship, Media Shout, or Proclaim. And again, churchvisuals.com, if you go to our training tab, we'll give you information on all of those. And we have free courses on those, things like that. So feel free to kind of jump in there if I'm going too fast or if you need more information. All right, third step in improving your visual media is start with ready-made media. Now, at Church Visuals, we have a whole library of about 40,000 pieces of media over about 10 product types. This is mini movies. This is theme packs, motion backgrounds, games for kids, lyric videos for kids and students, all kinds of stuff like that. Graphics, editable graphics that are Canva ready for your sermon series, for your events, for your social media. All of that stuff is there. So I would start there. If you are at a place at your church where you're like, we can't afford a full time graphics person or video person, I would start with ready made media. That way you can have a professional designer design your slides, design your video content, and you can take that into Canva, edit it, and look like a pro. So you could come to our site, get a ministry graphic, bring it into Canva, change, Easter to Easter at Crossway Church, and now you have your Easter graphic, that sort of thing. Okay, so so start with ready-made media. Number 4 is customize ready-made media. This is what I was referring to with Canva. So with our number 3, I'm probably more referring to you can use it straight out of the box. So if you want to use the Easter graphic as is, or the sermon bumper as is off a site like Church Visuals, you can do that. You can use it right out of the box. When you customize ready-made media, that's taking it into Canva and letting a professional designer design the base that you take into Canva and tweak to your context. Okay. Then I would move, especially in your sermons and other content, to licensing stock resources. Here's what I mean by that. Your pastor is doing a Sermon on the Mount, and you want to use a clip from The Chosen of Jonathan Rumi giving his best Jesus performance, talking about presenting the Sermon on the Mount. But you want to make sure that you're legal when it comes to showing that clip of The Chosen. You need to make sure that you're legal. So you can get those clips from Glue. Glue.us has a whole hub of Chosen clips that you can pull down for free. So the Chosen's a little bit different in that they are very generous with their content, but you still need to register and kind of license that content so that they know that you're showing it. But if you pull stock resources from anywhere else, you need to make sure that they're licensed. So don't just pull a clip from, The Passion of the Christ, or if we're going way back, or the latest movie. So if you're doing an At the Movie series and you're showing clips from Despicable Me, you can't do that without a license. So you can use a CVLI or CCLI would be two good sources to go to license those clips. All right, last kind of way to improve your visual media is to move from ready-made to custom. This might be, hey, we're using ready-made, we're pulling stuff down from multiple places or from churchvisuals.com. We've used ready-made, but now we're ready to make our own stuff. So this is moving from you have a subscription to a library to we're not ready to hire a full-time graphic designer or a video, but we need a step in that direction. So this is where you could come to a company like ours and we would make your content from scratch. So I know I have this bank of ready-made stuff, but I now need the custom. We want to do several series a year that are custom designed and custom video. I would highly suggest that you move that direction. So that would be your last step in this path, is to move from that. Now, we have custom media plans. We're trying to get the price really low for you guys, for ministry leaders. So our lowest tier is $299. So $299 a month. You would get 5 custom graphics, access to the ready-made library, and access to a training library. So just think about, I'm going to just kind of put this cost in perspective for you. So if you run $300 a month across a year, you're talking about $5,000 or $6,000. It'll be hard pressed to find a part-timer, or definitely not a full-time person. No one's going to a church for $5,000 or $6,000 a year, right? So you could get an outsourced team like Church Visuals to come in and fill that gap for you. So any of these places that you are on the journey, I want to encourage you to take the next step. So you might be at a place where I don't have any screens at my church. Well, that would be your first step. If you're going to reach the people that you want to reach for Jesus, especially younger folks, you have to get screens in your context. Now, if that's not what you're about, which I've talked to churches that they're cool with reaching the demographic that they want to reach and they don't want screens in their auditorium, that's fine. Go for it. I'm saying if you're after a younger generation and you want young families in your church, which a lot do, if you're wanting to grow and not kind of you know replace with the older generation, you definitely want to get screens in your spaces. And then I'm just going to kind of go over these real quick, Zach, and then I'll hand it back off to you. Um, so again, move from screens to presentation software, then to start with ready-made, then customize that ready-made. Then if you're going to use stock, be sure to license it, any clips or stock resources, and then move from ready-made media to custom media. So that's kind of a clear path that you can go, that you might be at 2 and needing to move to 3, or you might be at 4 needing to move to 5. Wherever you are on that journey, be sure to try to move to that next step, right? And if you need any help with this, before I pass it back to you, Zach, I'm going to put my phone number up here, and people can contact me. You're welcome to reach out to me by phone, by email. My email is carl@churchvisuals.com. But this is my phone number. So feel free, if you're watching this webinar, feel free to shoot me a text. Let me know that you're here. If you need any help finding stuff, look, this is not, I know we've mentioned church visuals multiple times. This is not a big sales pitch. This is
Mhm.
us helping you, Zach, the church communications team, the church visuals team. We have a heart to help ministry leaders.
Yeah.
And so if we were in this for the money, maybe Zach is, but certainly ministry there's not a get rich quick, right? This is because we all have a heart to see you reach people for Jesus, to see
Mhm.
salvation and spiritual growth happen in your church. So if you need help with anything, feel free to reach out. That's my number. And Zach, maybe you can put my email and number in your notes as well. But
We
that's kind of
definitely,
I know I moved fast, but if you need any help with anything, let us know. All right,
yeah,
Zach.
that's perfect. Yeah, and if you could just leave your number up there too, I want to make sure that people have enough time to be able to pull that out. I love that you talked about the idea of it takes us like 13 milliseconds to be able to determine if that's like even something we want to engage with. Um, Talking in the social media realm, what kind of
Yeah.
content have you found is the most engaging for people?
Yes. So you definitely want to use social post with images or video. I mean, the
Mhm.
stats on does a visual connect and engage over text is through the roof. Um, let's ask the question: why are YouTube Shorts a thing?
Mm.
Because the attention span and the visual are what catches people. Why, when you scroll, do you catch the selfie video faster you're going to scroll past the text post?
Yeah.
If you hit a video post, you're more likely to stop. That's why in video posts, people are like, "Hey, let me stop you from scrolling. I know that you were
Hmm.
scrolling, but I'm going to tell you about this cool thing." Video is gonna video all day long is gonna reach people over. So I would say use visuals on your post a lot more than text, and then make it as engaging as you can. Your social posts do not have to be super polished. Like they can
Hmm.
be a talking head or you on your cell phone or whatever. It doesn't have to be super polished, but I would say visuals over text all day long.
Yeah. And I like that you bring up the idea of a polished presentation because I think that that is a huge pressure that we feel, and even why a lot of us don't push out as much content. So, I mean, for example, I was on church staff outside of Atlanta for 5 years, and my huge day to day job was our digital media and our digital marketing. And so many times, I was so fixated on being able to make a polished presentation that I ended up not even making anything or even pushing out anything
Right.
um, because of that. But we forget the value of social media. Social media is primarily a social component, and within that social component, people want to see us. They want to engage with us. They're okay with a messy moment. They're
Yeah.
okay with something that um, I always say do something that represents you well. When we're always leaning into this polished, high production content, that's what we that's what we lead people expectations to. And you may not, you may be that church without those video screens that have yet to be able to purchase those. But the authenticity that you provide, and even down to just a selfie video, we all have cell phones, our cameras are amazing on our phones now. Being able to have people look at your face and see you and talk with them, that's a very human experience for people there.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. I'm very glad that you brought up the idea of we can't use unlicensed material. That's, illegal, but that is part of the huge roadblock for people is they want to show these videos. What has been some of the best, I don't want to say workaround as in we're just going to throw it on the screen. What other alternatives exist when maybe you can't get the video or the YouTube video that you want to post up there? Do you just negate it? Do you talk about it and paint the picture in the sermon? Like, what are some other
Yes.
ways?
Yeah, you paint the picture. So in fact, in this workshop that I do, let me see if I can find this slide real quick. Maybe I can pull it up. There is a video on YouTube that I could not talk about because I couldn't get license for it.
Mm,
Or I'm sorry, I couldn't show it because I couldn't get license for it. But let me show you. Uh, Here's what I did. I put up I put up this. Now I could get license to show their logo,
mm,
but I just put up a snapshot. They wouldn't let me show it, but they would let me take a screenshot of it. And so I talked about it. This was a commercial. I don't know if you remember. This was like a Christmas commercial that was super emotional about this grandpa who was like practicing his uh, this motion, and then at the end he lifts his granddaughter up on the Christmas tree and helps her like
yeah.
put the star on the Christmas tree. Super emotional, right? So I was talking about how visuals really help us evoke emotion. Well, I couldn't
Mm,
show this YouTube clip, but I could show this screenshot and talk about it. So I would go that route first, um, or unfortunately negate it,
yeah.
or like you saw me use the blink of an eye uh, piece, right? There are places that you can like Pexels and other places that are free footage. So
Hmm.
Unsplash, and other places that maybe you can't illustrate it based on the YouTube video, but maybe you can pull one of these clips of a blink of an eye and you can drop that into your ProPresenter, and that's going to illustrate just as well as what you were
Hmm.
talking going to use the YouTube clip for. So there are legal ways to do this that you're not breaking the law or stealing.
Yeah. See, and I like that response because a lot of churches that may be smaller, they're like, well, I don't have the budget to license everything, but I still have found inspiration from something. So that gives you options and resources on how you can still be able to paint a picture and refer to something without copyright infringement, because
Yep.
that is a legal kind of component there. Um, Something that I want to switch to is, we deal, both of us, we work with churches from a vastness of sizes. And I loved your six step process in expanding your church visuals. How do you suggest and recommend to maybe a pastor of a smaller church or even a staff pastor that sees the value in church visuals, but they are needing to go to a church board or get the buy-in from their church leadership to
Yeah.
go to the next step? What would you recommend to them?
Yeah, that's good. So we've really worked to make it affordable across the board. That's just been a huge passion of mine.
Hmm.
So let's say you're at step 3 and you need ready-made media. So on our site, you can purchase that a la carte. You don't need a subscription. You can purchase it a la carte. So if you want one graphic for $5, there you go. You don't need approval for $5 from the board to go get a graphic. Okay. So that's available to you. Then the ready-made subscription is $24 a month. So
Hmm.
$24 a month is the entire library at churchvisuals.com. So all 40,000 plus pieces of media is available to you for $24 a month. So we've talked to ministry leaders to get that down so that, like, do you need board approval to do $24 a month? Maybe not.
Mm.
And so the kind of magic number that usually we hear from churches is around the $300 range. That could change depending on your size of church.
Yeah.
But the $300 range is like, okay, that's the tipping point of I need approval for. So in the custom media realm, let's say you're at step 6 here, and you move from ready made to custom. That we were very purposeful about creating a custom media plan that's under $300.
Mm.
So now you can go unlimited for $5.99, or if you want graphics and video, that's more expensive. That's a higher tier. But we want to help churches no matter your size. And so we were very intentional about getting a price point that was under $300.
Yeah.
So we're at $299. You get up to five custom graphics, and you get the whole ready-made library and a whole slew of training. So for $299, and that has really helped a lot of church plants, because they're like, okay, I don't have to get approval for under $300. But I would say, if you're still like, hey, I can't get $24 a month, or I can't get $299 past my board, I would show them the content. I would, maybe we can, you could go through this material to go, hey, here's the value of this, pastor. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I've titled this workshop breakout "The Power of Visual Media," is
Mm-hmm.
because there's power and value in it, pastor. it I want what you want. I want people to get saved and grow in their spiritual walk. We want people at our church, right, to, if I'm you and I'm explaining this to my leadership, we want people to absorb the message more. We
Mm-hmm.
want them to absorb it faster and more, and hold on to it longer. Well, I'm going to prove to you through science and stats, and through general knowledge of the landscape and communications, that, again, 10% of people remember what they hear, 20% remember what they read, 80% remember what they see.
Mm.
Pastor, I want what you want. We want both the same thing, in that we want our people remembering, seeing things, registering faster to what you were talking about, and them absorbing more. Will you allow me to use visual content to help you deliver if you could teach them the value of it, and show them that you are highly supporting them by using more visual media in their sermons, in the services, on social media, everywhere. If you kind of show them the value, I think you'll get farther. Hopefully
Yeah.
that answered your question, Zach.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up that, pastors are always figuring out ways, how can I make my message stick a little bit more?
Right.
And what we even have found ourselves in as church is that we really have only leaned into one way of communicating that message. And that message is sermons, standing on a stage, communicating outwardly to a group of people. But as we
Right.
have seen, even in time and even generational changes, is the way that we receive information is very different. You have an older generation that receives those standing messages really well, but then you have a younger generation that values being able to consume content in a way that's maybe not as lectury, but in a more relational component. And so, what visual media allows you to do is now you are able to communicate your message across um, generational lines. And then,
Yeah.
even thinking through learning styles, we learn from conversation, we learn from hearing, we learn from reading, we learn from engaging with reflective content. So the more that we lean into visual media, what that allows us to do is to be able to take our pastor's message and push it out into different forms of visual media. And
Yep.
now people are able to connect with it in a way that is personalized and receptive to them as an individual. And I love what you guys are doing. You are making that accessible for churches, both on a large scale and on a small scale.
Yeah.
One last question that I'll ask you is, I know that you've worked with a ton of churches. Is there a church that you have as a testimonial where church visuals has really impacted them?
Yeah. In fact, that's I have several in this presentation. So if you go to those slides, you can see some of those videos of impact stories. But there's one church that comes to mind in Canada. that a Pastor Cameron Jeffs is his name, and he said he uses our ready-made library, and he was using a series, and he was telling a story of their church used a series, and they used the graphic and put the graphic on a door hanger, and then went around and canvassed their neighborhood, and were putting the door hangers on all the doors. And it hit a lady. A lady came and visited and brought the door hanger back to the church. And this was the end of the service, and her husband had gone up to the front of the auditorium toward the end of the service, and accepted Jesus actually, and then came to the pastor with the door hanger and said, "Hey, this door hanger with this graphic on it caught our attention. Everybody all the other churches in our neighborhood
Hmm.
are not doing things as engaging as you. This caught our eye, that you guys care about us, that you would pour time into making these graphics and making things that would catch our attention and grab us. And we came to service. My husband and I accepted Jesus." And he said, that was awesome in itself. Fast forward 2 or 3 years later, they are leaders in the church.
Wow.
They are serving in the church. They are growing in their faith. And he said, all because of a graphic on a door hanger that was on the door that caught a lady's attention. Is it the graphic or the door hanger that saved her? No, it's the
Hmm.
Holy Spirit that saved her. Absolutely. But the visual was a tool to get her and her husband in the door to hear the message of the gospel. They
Hmm.
came to Jesus and they're growing in their faith. Your visuals matter. Why? Because the gospel matters.
Yeah. That's an incredible story. And that even further emphasized, the power of the visual media. You're right. Did that door hanger save them? No, the Holy Spirit did, but that was a conduit by which they were able to come to church and become a productive member of their faith community, which is all of our goals. We want our community to be engaged there.
Yep.
Carl, thank you for joining us. I mean, I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that presentation. What we're going to do is we're going to also re-upload this video into the Facebook page. We're going to put it on YouTube. In the show notes, you're going to be able to link to Carl both on his website, his email, and his phone number. So reach out to Church Visuals, be able to connect with him. I'm sure he would love to get on calls with you and even dive further. The same thing with us at Church Communications Group. We always love to talk to you about your church communications and how you can continue to improve your church communications and your strategy for reaching your community. So, Carl, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Zach, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Yep.